Okay, so now that we've warmed up a little bit and talked about our objectives for today and the grading rubric for the fish out of water story, which you're working on the script for, and then you will be recording each other telling your stories. Um, each of you have that rubric, right? Yeah, okay. I handed it out to all of you. Great. Let's start talking about memory techniques. There are many memory techniques, but what they all share in common is preparation and practice. And choosing a technique really depends upon your purpose and your personality. By purpose, I mean, um, what will you be doing when you're speaking? Will you be having a one-on-one conversation, or which could be in a casual or in a business type setting, or maybe you're giving a presentation and there might be a Q&A after, a question and answer session after, or maybe there you'll be telling an informal story and maybe retelling a story to friends and family, or maybe also in a business setting. By personality, I mean, what is your personal objective? Is it that you really want to get the content and maybe the emotional feeling of the story across? Or are you interested in using near flawless grammar and use of vocabulary? Likely the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle of those two, but it really depends upon the circumstances. The bottom line is to choose a technique that works for you. For example, our assignment that we're working on right now is our fish out of water stories. And you'll be talking for 6 to 10 minutes. And as we talked about, you can use notes. Your personal objective might be that you really want to get the emotional impact of the story across. You want to hook the listener at the very beginning and keep them engaged all the way through. Or maybe because this is an ESL class, you really want to focus on getting your grammar and your vocabulary perfect. Both of those are totally valid. And there's also the option of finding that middle ground between the two. As a side note, if you're interested in the craft of storytelling, I really want to recommend the Moth Story Hour, which is a podcast, and most of the podcast episodes run between 25 and 35 minutes or so. The language can be advanced, but to help you understand, there's a transcript that's attached to each of the episodes. What's a transcript? Yeah, it's a written text of something spoken. Great. In general, podcasts are a really great listening exercise. The reason why I like them is because usually the people are speaking in an informal way, in a natural way, and the podcast players are really great now. You can start and stop them, replay sections really easily, and sometimes you can even slow down the speaking so that you listen to it slower than it was originally said. So those are great for improving your listening skills. If you're interested in this, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about how, choosing a podcast or choosing a podcast app. And if enough of you are interested, we can even have a class about it. So, what are some memory techniques that you all use? I'm curious. Flashcards, okay, that's a really good one. Duolingo, okay, yep, I use Duolingo too. It's a good thing to use when you're first starting to learn the language. What else? Ah, connecting a word with an image. That's a really good one. We're going to talk more about that later. Thank you. Thank you, Joaquin. Um, what do you use when you are preparing to speak? Memorizing. Yeah, memorizing is a classic one. Does everybody know what memorize means? Right. It means committing something to memory. It can also mean Another way of saying that is knowing something by heart, learning something by heart. And by heart is an English idiom. It means you know it so well that it lives in your heart. That's the idea. Who else memorizes presentations? Yeah, a lot of you do. And um, for the people that don't, what do you do? Okay, so you like write out what you're saying and then maybe practice it in front of somebody else. Okay, great. And for those of you that don't memorize, why is that? Yeah, it makes you more nervous. Absolutely. It can definitely make me more nervous because if you get tripped up on one word, it can throw off the whole presentation. Absolutely. And um, oh, yeah, actually, I wanted to mention, so in my classes when I took Spanish, actually, I used to memorize any presentation that I gave. I memorized it from start to beginning, to end, rather. But my husband wouldn't. So he got used to writing out what he was going to say and then practicing some key phrases so that he really knew what those words were, if there was any tricky vocabulary, and then practicing it in front of me and the cats. And he liked that. That kind of became his thing. Who got better grades? Good question. Yeah, he actually got better grades for the speaking portions. I can tell you that. So the bottom line here is that when it comes to these memory techniques, they all involve preparation and practice. So now let's talk about some more that we haven't covered yet. And I'd like to challenge you to use at least one of these techniques when you're preparing for your fish out of water stories. Okay?